All right, folks, it's 7 o'clock and it's the first time in a year and a half we've done this. Welcome back. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Patrick Bell, the chair of the Central Chapter of the Oklahoma Native Plant Society. This evening, Brandon Baker has come up to talk to us from Marietta, which thank you so much for coming all the way up. Brandon is man, he's done a lot. He works for the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation, managing 3 different wildlife management units. He graduated from Southeastern in Durant, Oklahoma, and went to work with the ODWC. For the last 10 years, he's been working and managing over 27,000 acres of wildlife lands. So he's converted, one of the biggest projects that he's had was the conversion of over 700 acres of Bermuda grass and a cow pasture to a wildlife habitat. So it's very pertinent. He's using native plants and doing all the things that a lot of us wish we could do. So Brandon, thank you so much for joining us. It's yours.
Appreciate that. And as before we get started, like I said, my presentation, I'll try to go through it kind of slow, but if I get too fast or if you misunderstand what I'm saying or have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or just holler at me or whatever. But I'll try to go through it. And like I said, I tried not to go in too much depth, just trying to kind of an overview. But anyways, we'll kind of get started. So the history, like on one of the areas that Patrick was talking about that I manage is Cross Timbers Wildlife Management Area. It's in, like I said, west of Marietta, Oklahoma. It was historically a cattle ranch. It was called the Kimball Ranch. The Kimball family owned it for around 100 years or so. And it was, like I said, it's composed of 10,600 acres. And it had previous history, had minimal burning activity. And it's a sandy savanna loam soil type. So, it's pretty, erosive. Basically, they like in that sandy soil, it's kind of below sand in places. So the previous owner, the Kimball family, they planted Bermuda grass and love grass to try to, stabilize the soil stability. And so anyways, that's where whenever the department bought it, that's when we started trying to, convert those acres back to native grass, because our primary interest and concerns, wildlife. And like I said, the remaining portion of the ranch or the wildlife management area, like I said on here, you can see 1,000 acres, roughly introduced grass, and then the remaining native rangeland. Primarily, it's in the post oak, the Cross Timbers region. So it's blackjack, post oak, predominantly the woody species. But going into converting the native grass or the introduced grasses, the pastures, Bermuda grass, we haven't done much with the love grass. To me, the love grass is a lot harder to kill out and eradicate rather than Bermuda grass. So like I said, our primary interest has been taking out the Bermuda grass. And so like I said, whenever we go into it, the first year in the spring, soon as the grass starts greening up, and it's got some good growth on it, we spray glyphosate, which is Roundup, over the entire pasture. And roughly we're putting down about a gallon per acre, which is pretty for quite a bit. But the thing is, you've got to basically, just overwhelm it. But the thing is also, once we nuke, I just call it nuking it because it'll kill it out. But like I said, once you get some rains, you'll start seeing that regrowth occur again. And it just depends on the rainfall. And like I said, on soil types too, it's sitting like basically a formula to treat every place in Oklahoma, a place with a more clay content, soil content, it's going to react a little bit differently. But like I said, our soil type there is, like I said, sandy savanna loam. But so it's like I said, and it's over pretty much the whole wildlife management area. So it's pretty uniform in the way, the chemicals react on the vegetation. So I glyphosate the whole pasture, and then as things start greening back up after rain or over time, we retreat it again. And on here you can see it. It takes about 2 growing seasons is what we've experienced to get 90-95% eradication. And I would say, somebody tells you they're getting 100%, that's kind of hard to believe, because that stuff, it's resilient, the Bermuda grass. And I couldn't tell you for sure the exact, there's so many different varieties of Bermuda grass out there. I don't know exactly what type of Bermuda grass is. It's different, couple different types, but I'm not sure. I didn't really go into detail on trying to figure out what Bermuda type that I was actually treating. And so in that, after spraying it with glyphosate a couple times and got a pretty good kill, I didn't want to just keep nuking everything out there on the pasture. So I started after basically when I started noticing I was getting at least 80 to 85%, somewhere in that range, I started using clethodim, which is just strictly a grass killer, because I wanted like the forbs and things that were starting to respawn and come up. I didn't want to just leave it bare soil all the time. Clethodim, it's a grass killer. Yeah. It's like CLETHODIM, I think, something like that. Well, I've got it in the next slide, but how much it costs from start to finish. I was going to say the glyphosate, it's been a while since I purchased some, but I was trying to think how much it is a gallon. Has anybody bought any lately? It has gone way up. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking it was whenever I bought, because I was buying it like a big tote, like 260 gallons, and it was costing me, I think, around $3,000 for that tote for that 260 gallons. But when you're putting out that much, you have to almost buy it in bulk to get a little bit better price. I'm sorry. No, it was concentrate. It was, I was trying to remember we bought 2 or 3 different, Cornerstone. I was trying to remember what percentage. It was pretty high, but I don't remember exactly the right. And Ranger Pro too. Well, I spent 2 growing seasons treating that pasture. So I was 2 summers, 2 growing seasons. And then once I got to the fall of that second growing season, I planted, whenever I got to my achievable, 90-95% yield, then I would plant my cover crop, which I planted wheat. But you can plant something else, but wheat was just pretty reasonable in price, and it provides good cover. Because basically what you don't want to do is just leave all that sand, and my like I said, in that area, that sand, if you leave it unexposed, it'll start blowing with winds and things. So you want a cover crop there to sustain the soil. And then what I did, I'd plant it, like I said, generally in September, October timeframe, generally in October, because I was trying to not worry, fight late enough to where I didn't have to worry about armyworms and things. But and then I would let it, like I said, grow, and it kind of go dormant in the winter. But then in the spring, I'd let it get up, it'd start growing there, first part of March, I'd let it get up around 6 to 8 inches in height, and I would spray it completely with glyphosate again to kill it. but anyway, what I was wanting to do is have that layer there, that vegetation, you know, that cover crop, but, you know, it's basically sustain and hold the soil. And then I would immediately, within a week or two of spraying it, I would go in and plant my native grass mix into that in the spring. And I've had the best luck planting in the spring. I mean, you can plant it basically anytime, the native grass, but anyways, it worked best for me in our kind of system of things is planting it just right there in the spring. Well, it's, you know, it's best, you know.
And then would you mind repeating the question?
Oh, he said, what kind of seed did I use or blend? What I would recommend, I'll tell you what blend I used, but I would recommend, you know, there's a soils books out there, or it's actually all online now, soil database, but it'll actually tell you what was basically there, you know, history wise, what's best suitable for that soil type. And so I would refer to that soil type, you know, whatever, you can look it up, look at your property or somebody else's property and look up and find, it's a soil data layer. I think USDA, NRCS has that data layer, but I'm not sure exactly the website to get to it, but you can kind of search it and find it, or go to like a USDA, NRCS service center and they can help you with it. But with my soil, like I was telling y'all, it's at sandy savanna. I was planting, you know, like your 4 big, you know, like a big blue stem. And in my instance, it was sand blue stem, and then Indian grass, switchgrass, and little blue stem. And then in that mixture, that was 95% of my mixture of my, you know, but then I would put forbs in there as well. And then I put like partridge pea, Illinois bundleflower, Maximilian sunflower, and side oaks as a grass. I would put it in the mixture, and I should have probably brought the kind of the formula. But anyways, and then I was trying that, like I said, that made up, like I said, that 5%. But personally, after doing it, you know, like I said, it's kind of a learning lesson for me, you know, kind of trial and error. But I would probably limit or reduce the amount of native grasses that you're actually putting in your blend, and put more forbs and legumes, you know, in that mixture. Just for the simple reason, those native grasses, they will come on really strong, you know, and like I said, you got to manage that. And I'll go into more about how I'm managing the native grass aspect of things. But, you know, from a wildlife standpoint, it doesn't need to be a monoculture of just, you know, native grass. I mean, you need that, you know, basically diversity of plant species in there. So, you know, from a cattle standpoint, you know, you might just want, you know, more just grasses and not so much forbs and, you know, diversity. But anyway, from a wildlife standpoint, I want more, you know, diversity plant wise. Yeah, I drilled it, you know, and it does take, you know, native grass. Sorry, he asked if I drilled it. But and for native grass, you have to have the best basically success on planting your native grass. It takes like a drop seed drill. So because at Bermuda, I didn't bring any native grass, but anyways, I don't know if y'all have seen it, but anyways, it's just real fluffy. But you have to have in that seed box, you have to have these, you know, basically some type of formulation to pull and grab that seed to push it down to get it out of the seed box. And so there's lots of different seed or drills out there that you can rent or buy. I rented the first few times I drilled the native grass. I rented it because there's lots of seed distributors too around the state and into Texas, you know, because I was trying to get something a little more local for me. But they have, those seed companies have drills that you can rent, and it's, the last time I rented one, it was I think around between $5 and $10 an acre. You know, it wasn't too bad. But yeah, there's lots of different. I bought a Great Plains native grass drill, but it's got like 3 boxes on it, but one of them's a native grass seed box. But anyways, but it has these big cylinders in there that is turning and pulling that grass to drop it out the bottom of the drill. And then all you're doing is basically, you're not planting it deep on that drill. All it's doing is putting it on the, dropping it on the ground, and he's got little packer wheels on the back. And all it's doing is just, like I said, applying pressure and putting that native grass seed, just all you're wanting is contact with the soil. And that's why that cover crop is so important, because all you're doing is putting that native grass on the ground, just compacting it into the soil just barely. And if you don't have that cover crop, if it's just bare, just dirt, soil, then you'll get a lot, that seed will disperse, you'll get a lot, basically it's not going to stay put. It's going to move around, like below to the fence line or whatever, or wherever you're planting it. So that's what's important about having your cover crop, to keep everything at bay and get a better stand of your native grass. Yeah, like I said, I kind of touched on some of this, but native grass according to the soil type. And like I said, on your native grass planting, don't expect immediate response. People, it's not like planting a crop, as soon as you plant it, it'll germinate and be up within, 10 or 15 days or whatever. The native grass, it is more time consuming coverage, or basically germination state and going, completely covering. But usually on average, it takes 3 to 5 years to get a good stand of native grass. And a lot of it's variable on the weather, and everything. And like I said, soil type has a lot to do with it. But anyways, the main thing is don't give up. A lot of people will, give up on it after like year 2 or 3 or whatever. They see that there are just a few plants coming up and they're not seeing much, but it's not a short-term process. It's a long-term process, but you will see the results if you just stick with it. And like I said on here, it's roughly about $250 per acre from the time you put all the, the glyphosate and like the clethodim and the time. I just figured in some time, I know times it's variable to everybody what your time's worth, but and just the equipment. And then like I said, the native grass seed, it's pretty expensive too. But like I said, if your long-term goals, if you want, the native grass, element to your place, then it's well worth it. About around, I tried the drill, it is around 4 pounds to the acre. Yeah. But anyways, but my drill, it was, it varies to, sometimes I was getting a little bit over 5 pounds to the acre, it's per live seed, pounds per live seed. But anyways, but yeah, it's pretty minimal. But yeah, he's asking to get to work with pH or lime. I actually did not. That would be probably something that would be better. You'd be, if you needed something prior to treat, put lime down. But in that sandy soil, and it's really good soil. It'll grow about anything, and like I said, sometimes I'll put down fertilizer, like with my cover crop or something. You don't have to, but because then that just costs you more. But I was actually using that cover crop as a big food plots for deer and everything else. So I was wanting good lush and green, going through the winter months. But yeah, he's asking if I overseed or planted the grass the next year. No, I've just planted just the one time. Yeah, I've never reseeded anything. And so anyways, and I know pictures don't do it justice. It's hard to tell how things look on here, but this is like the first year post planting. I know it doesn't look like much. You'll get one thing one year, when you're looking at it, you look out there and you'll get a lot of annual stuff that's, that's kind of, not really that great. But anyways, it's just that, you get, like I said, you get a lot of mare's tail, a lot of different things that are coming in, which isn't that bad. But it's like, if you're looking and then the 2-year, like, it's hard to see, like I said, the picture, but there's a lot of native grass and there's a lot of ragweed mixed in because that sandy soil, we grow ragweed like crazy. But from a wildlife standpoint, that's really good. But anyways, on this picture, this isn't, I would say this isn't a typical result of the native grass planting. Usually this is like year 3 or 4, what's looking like on that picture in most circumstances. But or something else I was going to say. Oh, what's crazy is, like I said, what I've had, basically the first native grass that I've always had come up, and sometimes it's real dominant early, is switchgrass. And to me, I don't know why, but it's one of the first thing that you really see starting to come in. And I've got a few areas that I've planted native grass, and it's almost a monoculture switchgrass. It's in a little small. It was one of my first areas that I was kind of working on. It's just like a small 12 or 15 acre patch. But anyways, but this one here, this is a field. I try to do them in about 100 acre increments, because it's a lot to try to, it's kind of overwhelming spraying and staying on top of it. And so like I said, I'd kind of do it in stages, instead of trying to, we talked about 700 acres that we've converted, but, it's basically been 100 acres at a time. I'd start 100 acres, and then the next year I'd start on another 100 acres, and just slowly. Sorry, did I mow it? No, I've never mowed anything on there. I just let it be, and just let it, basically it's just rest and just waiting.
You're getting a lot of undesirable weeds or something in there that will putting out seeds and mow some of it.
It depends on what your objective is. If you want, just a monoculture, just native grass, and you don't want any other thing in
Well,
there.
like I get Johnson grass.
Yeah, Johnson grass, you for sure want to spray it. Just like the Bermuda grass, and we have, after we've gone in and planted the native grass, if we saw big, like a little patch of grass, the size of this little small area in this room or something, go in and immediately spray it. Yeah, but like Johnson grass, I'd say get on it. And we've got some Sericea lespedeza, it's invasive, and anyways, we're spraying it, and it's coming up in places in our native grass, but we're spot spraying that Sericea to keep it out. I'm sorry? Spray with, like chemicals on the Sericea? Oh, well, on the Bermuda grass, he was asking what we spray with, and I was spraying glyphosate on it just to kill it, and just going back if I need to repeatedly, spraying.
We use some outright,
Oh, yeah.
and that will just kill lots of stuff too.
Oh, yeah. So all riders, y'all hear that? Yeah.
Outright.
It's supposed to let native grasses alone.
What's it called?
You have to be-
Yeah, labels are important.
certain things that will get to certain
Yeah.
things that won't sell them or- I
Right.
think that's managed for-
Yeah. And we luckily we haven't had to fight any Johnson grass down there in our native grass, efforts. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you mentioned, ragweed, and I'm battling ragweed. I've got 18 acres or
Yeah.
18 years of horses that have
Yeah.
damaged my property. So now I've got 9 acres, and it just seems like it would fight ragweed. So should I be able to take over?
Yeah, it's gonna be there, because that seed base is there, but I was gonna say, I would, I know I'm kind of jumping around, but anyways, you can plant, not necessarily that you have to do, like I said, if you've got just primarily just a lot of weeds, ragweed or whatever else is coming in, you can actually plant that native grass right into it. But the thing is, you don't want to plant it into like a monoculture Bermuda grass or love grass or something like that. But if you're just have a lot of weeds, you can brush hog it, or mow it or whatever, and then just plant your native grass right into it. I mean, it just depends on what kind of cover you have. You know, if you've got other grasses there, I would recommend killing it. You know, if you got crabgrass or something like that, you know, because it's, yeah, I would treat all that before ever planting native grass. But if it's just primarily like just a lot of weeds and stuff, you could, with that drop seed, like it's basically like considered a minimal till drill. And you can just, I would just brush hog it, you know, pretty low, and then just plant right into it. And you'll start seeing the native grasses coming in. But like I said, if it's Bermuda grass or crabgrass or something, you'll battle that. That'll be,
Yeah, I've got spots of Bermuda, and I've got really pretty native spots
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Really tough.
fertilizer? No, don't. Yeah, the thing is that Bermuda grass, you know, and stuff, you know, it thrives in fertilizer or mowing. So I leave it alone, or spray it and leave it alone. You don't have to put any fertilizer down on your native grass plantings, you know. Well, that's my experience. I mean, like I said, you can save some money, but it doesn't need fertilizer. So like I said, the pH, you know, the soil could help prior to, you know, if you need lime or something like that prior to the planting, but you know, that native grass, that element, you know, it's native to that soil type, so it'll grow, be just fine. But anyways, I'm trying to think. And then it's kind of off it, but in our native grass areas that we've actually developed, you know, one of the things that was lacking was woody cover. And this is kind of the wildlife side of it, but you know, we added sand plums to our native grass areas that had no woody cover. And so we've planted, I was trying to think, like the woody cover, you know, from a wildlife standpoint, you know, it creates escape cover, nesting, and food value for a variety of different wildlife species. And we planted on cross timbers a little over 70,000 sand plums in some of those native grass restoration plots. And I'll kind of show you, I've got a few pictures of it, like this little pasture here. This was kind of before the native grasses come on, but anyways, we planted those sand plums. You can see, you know, right there on the right hand part of the screen, those sand plums, and you can buy them from like Goldsby, Oklahoma, the trying to think, Department of Agriculture, Wildlife, no, it's not Wildlife Services, but Forestry Service. Yeah. But that's where we bought ours, but they're just seedlings, you know, they're just like a foot tall, but bare root seedlings are what they are. But you can buy them they come 50 in a pack. Anyways, we plant them. They have 3-point behind you, like you can plant them with like a dibble bar, like a tree spade. But planting like we did, we planted, you know, thousands of them. So we actually had a 2-person tree planter, and we were putting them in the ground. And go ahead. Yes, they do. It's a native sand plum. Yeah, they produce. Yeah, the plum. Yeah, and so that's why, you know, from that standpoint, you know, it does provide the shade, you know, quail and things, and other wildlife, you know, in the heat of the summer, you know, it creates pretty good opportunity, you know, to get in there. And you know, it's cooling. There's been some research show that, you know, under a woody plant from out in the sun, like 105 degrees, it's been like 15 to 20 degrees cooler, you know, under there. So it's a really good way to, you know, like I said, and then it's kind of hard to see, but right through the middle of it is sand plums. These they're actually taller now. This was taken like a year or so ago. But anyways, we just planted those sand plums and right through the middle of like some of our restoration stuff. But the thing is on those sand plums is that they will expand, you know. So we planted 4 to 5 rows of sand plums, but like I said, now they've already, you know, expanded, you know, 10 to 15 foot, and they'll keep expanding. But anyways, it's just one of those things that you've got to manage it. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. But going back to like your native grass restoration stuff, you know, or native rangeland, like, you know, there's 42 North American birds that rely on grassland, native rangeland for nesting. And so anyways, it's a big, it's a pretty big deal when you start looking at that aspect of it. And you start looking at the songbirds and things that do rely on native rangeland, they're actually declining. And so, that's why it's, really important to try to, promote, native rangeland. And that's why we're trying to convert everything back to native rangeland that was, in introduced pastures at one time. But like the native range, the spatial composite vegetation, basically, that, whenever I was talking about the variety of grass, the mixture, and why I would basically reduce the amount of native grass and have the, more forbs and legumes component to the basically the whole mixture, is because, you need that open understory, and you don't want, basically like a carpet of grass, like Bermuda grass creates, because from a wildlife standpoint, that doesn't, it's not beneficial. You want that open understory, bare ground, so they can find insects, especially quail, and turkeys and everything else, the ground dwelling birds primarily, they rely on that area to find seeds and things. So anyways, and then like I said, food availability comes with, whenever you promote, promoting more native vegetation, and the native grass component creates escape cover for a variety of wildlife species. And then bird rearing, raising their young, like quail and turkeys and things specifically, they rely, those quail chick, they're just a couple inches tall, and so it's kind of like a little cotton ball running around. But anyways, but you need the bare ground. That's the main thing with, native grass, it's a clump, so it's not like a mat of grass, and that's what's so beneficial from a wildlife standpoint. And there's ways to manage that, because if you plant your native grasses and then if you don't either burn or graze it periodically, those native grasses, that old vegetation, from last year's growth, it breaks down and starts creating thick thatch layers, right there along the face of the ground on top. So you don't want that to start. You got to manage it.
So you said burning or grazing?
Yeah, it's the best way to reduce that thatch layer. That's, because it'll build up over time. It will break down, but anyways, and I'll go into a little bit more on that. I was just, and then also, the pollinator species, on, like I said, and if you have more of that, flowering mix, or more, basically, most of your forb legumes, they're flowering plants. So, your pollinator species will benefit from that as well. And then, like I said, the seeds that they produce, are really good for wildlife, songbirds and other things. But managing native vegetation, we do, like on cross timbers and on our other areas, wildlife management areas, we burn every year. Not the same place, not the same patch of ground, but prescribed burning is a big tool, and it's cost-effective tool for managing the landscape. Well, they'll escape on their own. You don't necessarily have to run them out of there, because we'll burn, like on this drawing here. This is cross timbers, and see, we've got all those burn units labeled there, or numbered, and they're on a 3-year rotation. And so if you're trying to manage your native range, what I fight and what a lot of people fight is the woody component of, your native rangeland. And so if you don't burn, like you can see all over the state, more and more cedar trees, and the brush encroachment is constantly evolving. So, the more often that you burn, you're going to reduce that woody component, the brush component. But we've got this I don't really have a pointer, but well, I guess I can use this mouse. But we'll burn, like this is one complete pasture, and we'll burn like this unit 1 year, and then we'll burn that one the following year, and then we'll burn this one the third year. It's just a constant rotation, but we're burning everything, or something every year. But anyways, on a 3-year rotation, you can, and we try to have, like whenever we do burn, it's mostly during the dormant season. You can burn during the growing season too, and it's really effective on woody vegetation. But for our goals, getting the manpower and everything, we just do it during the dormant season, or a little more least busy time of the year. But what you do is on that the dormant season burn, you're basically top killing all your brush, or the brush that's, I'd say, 4 to 5 foot or lower. Anything taller, unless there's some real heavy fuel like your grasses and things, greenbrier, stuff like that burns really hot, it will top kill it. But it, like I said, you're going to get that resprout, and it doesn't kill it completely. You're just going to get resprouting coming back after you burn it. So, but the thing is you're keeping it to that level, minimum level, by burning. Otherwise, it's just going to keep encroaching and getting taller and thicker if you don't burn. Yeah, it will. Yeah. It's a really effective way of control, because it'll burn like where the native grasses, are really growing really well on the outside edges, and where they're basically expanding, that it'll get so hot it'll top kill that back. And so it'll, the real thick areas, the sand plums right in the kind of the center portion, the more mature tree, there's not hardly any vegetation under those, so it's not gonna do any harm to those. But it will, like the small seedling or small sapling, the regrowth that's out there, it's a foot or two high, sorry. And anyways, it'll completely top kill all that. Yes, sir.
You guys do the burning in-house, or do you hire a?
No, it's in-house.
Okay.
Yeah. We do all of it, and we help each other. I've got 3 guys that work for me, and then but we there's several wildlife management areas across the state, and we're kind of in the central region, and I'll get guys from kind of up by Lexington and out east, like Tishomingo. Those guys will all come together and burn like our place across timbers, and then we'll go help them burn their place, because you need a dozen or so people. More the better. But anyway, we're usually burning with 10 or 12 personnel. Yeah. I know. I didn't really go into a lot of detail on the burn setup, but yeah, we will. Like, I'll just show you kind of an instance. He was asking how we do the burn, but yeah, like right here, say if we have a south wind blowing this direction, we will actually start up here on the north side, say for instance that corner, and I'll have a lighter going there to the east, and then down that line and going back west. And that will black line, say for instance this number 17 unit, we'll black line that and have it burn in when we, where we're comfortable with it. Say, just depends on the fuel load, but we'll burn it in maybe 75 to 100 yards. And then I'll have the lighter that's over here on this east side start burning, which is called the flank fire at the sides. And then this one, they'll simultaneously, it's kind of a coordination event, but anyways, they'll be lighting those 2 sides, flanking, creating the flank fires, and then they'll go all the way to the south end, because remember the wind's out of the south. And so you let those flank fires burn in, say for instance, about the same, 75 to 100 yards. And by the time those flank fires have burned in, you're talking your backfires in, possibly 300-400 yards. So you've got that whole black line from your backfire, and then you got your flank fires. And once your flanks, which are your sides, once they're burned in really well and you're content with it, then you start your head fire. And then like what we do, we have 2 lighters going. We'll have a guy from this side coming in, and then a guy from this east side coming in, and they'll meet right there in the middle. And then that creates your head fire, and it will, and like I said, but you've got it contained because you've done all that work. But the thing is, but the thing is, we have fire breaks, disc fire breaks around the whole perimeter, that whole unit. It's all disc. And if, sometimes we'll use, we'll plant like weed or something along a strip, for a fire break too, it's all green because it's during the dormant season when we're burning. So the fire is not going to go across it. But like I said, and then all our manpower though, besides the guys that are lighting, they're watching this backfire and these flank side. They don't even get up here on the head fire side. But anyways, your fire will take off across there. But, the embers and things that are, volatile, like, getting up into cedar trees or leaves off, a lot of oaks and different brush species, they don't always lose all their leaves. So if they get up and crown out into a tree, that's a lot of embers in the air. But if you burn or set it up right, you got a black line that's way inside. So if the wind's blowing those embers, it's got to carry 300 to 400 yards or even more to ever get out of that burn unit. So it's a real efficient way of, burning. And it, like I said, it's, we've done it a lot of years. So it's, and it takes the manpower, guys. That's why you have, good amount of personnel there with trucks, and we got UTVs with tanks and stuff like that. I've got, there's presentations on just going through the prescribed. I didn't really want to, I don't want to kind of get off track too much what we're, y'all wanted to listen to maybe, but anyways, the results from the fires, knocking back the woody vegetation, top killing it, like I'd already explained, and then burning up the thatch layers that I'd mentioned a little bit earlier. And like the leaf, if it's a close canopy woodland, the leaves and things that are there, because once you burn all those leaves and things up and kind of, if it's hot enough, it will open up the canopy a little bit, the small regrowth and stuff of woody. You're going to promote more, that native grass, seed base, and it's there. It's just, it needs, sunlight to grow. And like I said, and burning off the leaf litter. So what, basically you can hurry the process up, or you can, like trying to, if you have like a wooded, like a close canopy forest, we go in and we'll thin out the forest, leave certain diameter, trees that we're wanting to keep, kind of like a park, if it's, anyways, we'll go in and thin it, and then it's opening that canopy up, and then everything basically will start, you'll start getting a lot more native vegetation in those areas. Yeah.
So for those of us who have the little mini pocket prairies in the city, how would you recommend managing that as far as burning it, mowing it?
Yeah, in the city, I don't know, I don't know what all the city codes are, I think you could probably get a permit possibly, through the fire marshal to burn. I know like in Ardmore, I know it's nothing like Oklahoma City, but you have to go through the fire marshal to get a permit to be able to burn. But like I said, you could either burn it, or you could, like put, like some, basically like cow or, something out there to graze it. Yeah, well, goats, yeah, they'll help on your weeds and things, but yeah, I was gonna say on your grass component, it'd be like, to me, like I said, I know it's hard to burn sometimes within the city, but I would just get like, like you can get like miniature cows, or
Well, I know one place we visited a couple times,
Yeah,
it was never grazed, but they mowed it once a
That's what
year.
I wondered.
And the people that took us on the field trip said that mimicked an annual burn. Whatever time of year it was that they had chosen, like October or something. They said, never been grazed or anything like that, but by mowing it once a year, they had mimicked a burn.
yeah,
And it was
for
a
the new,
beautiful print.
yeah, for the new growth, it will, knocking all that top growth off, that old growth, last year's growth. But the only thing that you might see build up is just that thatch layer, when you're brush hogging it, you're putting all that, debris back on the ground.
This
And
place
like,
had a lot of forbs.
Yeah.
It had a lot of
Yeah.
thorns, so it wasn't that dense of grass.
Oh, yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, there's different ways, like I said, but yeah, and from a wildlife standpoint, and from, like I said, and like I said, from a cattle standpoint too, whenever you burn all that regrowth, it's just pristine and green. Everything that comes back, just like you see in wildfire, some areas or a prescribed burn, but everything will come to that area because it's, there's so much, basically protein and, so much high content of forage that's in all that new growth, everything that's growing. And so it's really beneficial from a wildlife standpoint, but and from a cattle standpoint too, because and I haven't gone into it yet, but we do manage, with cattle too. And like I said, the fire, it does kill cedar trees, the smaller ones. And then, but you got to, if you're going to kill a whole tree, you've got to completely cover that whole tree. Like if there's a couple limbs up top that never get scorched, that tree will stay alive. All the limbs down below will stay, brown and die, but you'll have a few green limbs up top, and that tree's still alive. So that's why if you're just cutting a cedar tree, you just get below that bottom limb, cut it off, then it's dead. So you don't have to worry about it like resprouting, as long as there's not, a limb or something that's still connected, it will stay alive. But if you get below bottom limb on cedar trees, same way with, consuming them with fire, it kills the tree. But
What's fire do to sumac? I mean.
it'll set it back. It'll top kill it. Yeah.
But that underground, all that root system is just there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends. It can, like I said, you can get enough heat on it to kind of, if it's like just a really new plot of like sumacs, but if it's an old stand, like if sumac that's been there for several years, you're going to get some top kill, but it's going to come back.
Okay.
But if it's really new, something that's just established, then you could have a good likelihood you're going to kill it. If you got enough heat on it to kill it whenever you're burning. But this is, I know I'm kind of jumping around, but this is how we manage and see kind of how our native vegetation's doing on cross timbers. Because we have, like I said, I haven't went into it, but we have cattle, and it's for a short duration, because we're trying to manipulate the grass component to benefit wildlife. And so we're doing two things. We're grazing, flash grazing, and we're burning. So we, kind of a double management tool there to try to mimic, and I mean, this is the way, historically, native rangeland is burned and grazed by bison, so it's the whole scheme of things, what's taking place historically. But we're doing it a little bit more manageable level. But anyways, we have this enclosure that you can see here, and basically I'm from that I can see how much pressure I'm getting outside that enclosure from the cattle. And then I have a transect, like I have a T-post right here that you can see, and then I have it's 200 foot. I have another one. They're both running. I mean, all of the transects are running north and south. But what I do is every year, right in the middle of January or July, I'll actually measure out that 200 foot with a tape, and every 2 foot, I'm taking a vegetation sample to see basically what's showing up. So if it's a grass, I don't go into details for, specifically on what type of grass or anything, but if I'm marking it, if it's a grass, a forb, legume, or a woody, or it's bare ground. I'm seeing, basically, I'm monitoring the transition that it's going to, year after year of burning and grazing. So I can manage our native grasses that way, or rangeland. And so when I have a transect, I'm going back, but I have a transect on each one of these burn units that's numbered here, because like I said, they're burned on a 3-year rotation. And like I said, they're all grazed the same like basically calf or cow per acre. So they're all grazed the same. There's 4 pastures, this yellow, this blue, if you can see it, and the purple, and then it's darker red. But those are 4 pastures, and they're all, like I said, they're all grazed the same. But we don't have interior fences on these areas. Those red lines are all they are is our fire breaks. So it kind of delineates, and I have them broke up pretty close to the same grazable acres. Like I burned 5 and 6 together because it equals roughly the size of 7. And so anyways, the cattle, just like wildlife, once we burn them, they congregate on those areas, and so our grazing time frame is we turn them in March the 15th and we pull them out July the 15th. So it's short duration grazing lease. But the reason why we pull them out and just graze them short term, because I want the native grasses to have a chance to respond, the latter end of the growing season. And that way we have the fuels to burn as well. So anyway, it's kind of just a little background on that. Yeah, on all the, he asked, we have permanent fences. Yeah, there's permanent fences around every pasture. Yeah. Yep, sure do. But like I said, the cattle are free to roam wherever they want. But like I said, we're using fire as a technique to pull them, draw them into those areas. So they get basically the native grasses. They can take extensive grazing for a short amount of time. Not, like Bermuda grass, that's why farmers and ranchers will use Bermuda grass, because they can take, a lot of overgrazing and still sustain. But if you overgraze native grass for a longer period of time, they'll actually phase out the whole system. So unless you let them have a substantial rest but anyways, that's kind of how we manage and kind of see how our native rangelands going. And then this just kind of gives you a real quick thing. I know it's a lot, but anyways, I'll kind of explain it. But like the red line, this is 2019 when we burned, and then 2018 is when unburned. So, it wasn't burned that, and these let's see, sorry, I'm saying it backward. Okay, 2018 is when, or 2018 and 19 is when we took these samples. But in 2019, on this unit 1 is when we burned. So what you'll see is 2019 we burned, and that's when we actually took the the transect data. So you can see when we burned the forbs, tremendously more in that year, because that's the year that we burned. And then you can see the grass component was knocked back quite a bit, because that's the year that it burned and the cattle were in there. So they, not really reduced, they reduced basically the top portion of it, but the grasses, there was just more forbs showing up in between the clumps of native grass. They're not depleting the native grass composition, but more forbs are basically showing up in that mixture. And then same way with the bare ground. Bare ground, like I was telling y'all earlier, it's really beneficial from a wildlife standpoint. So we like to see bare ground. And so you can see in 2018, when there was 0% showing up of bare ground in this unit. But when we burned in 2019, 16% of this transect was showing up bare ground. So it just tells you the results of fire and grazing. And the woody component reduced back to, you can see to 1%, which it doesn't have a big woody component to this unit, this transect in this unit, but still reduced it. So anyways, that's one way of looking, monitoring your native range to see kind of what transition it's going to over time, and just the more data, as we get it, and we've got 2 more years, but it's not on this graph. But anyways, but you can see if you're getting to a dominant grass stand or dominant woody stand, or if it's transitioning, you can see, you might need to increase the frequency of fire, possibly if you're getting to see more woody vegetation coming in, you know, on those transects. It's just a real easy way of monitoring your native rangeland. I'm sorry. No, we don't have any buffalo. It's all, like I said, it's all just like I said, besides the stuff that our restoration stuff, they're not getting grazed right now. But this is just a native rangeland that was already existing on the ranch. So, you know, you got to take that into account. But after like our native restoration areas, you know, once you, and it, you know, they're all going to kind of vary, but once you start seeing good dominance, you know, and good transition of a lot of good native grasses there, you can start lightly grazing and burning. So like we'll start burning those native grass, like the ones that I originally started about 5 years ago. We'll start burning those this next year. So yes.
In some of our pastures, where there's some good ground and then there's some marginal.
Yeah.
The marginal you do a short grass, buffalo grass. So, not over here.
Yeah.
The plants look like this one, this big one, this big one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, it's, you know, and that's the thing, you know, I mean, like I said, this is just the circumstances that, you know, we're dealt with, but yeah, every place is going to be a little bit different. So you know, like I said, with the buffalo grass and things, you know, I would just research, you know, because the buffalo grass, I don't know that much, you know, history about it, but it may be where you can burn it like maybe once every 5 years or whatever. But the thing is, probably can't handle the grazing like, you know, possibly. I don't know. I don't know that much about buffalo grass, but I just don't have enough of it, you know, or any of it to really. Oh yeah, yeah. And so, anyways, anybody have? I know, kind of skipping around, but anybody have any questions on any of this? And then also, just from a wildlife standpoint, on a native range, we've actually got telemetry data. We had little backpacks on quail. They're actually little solar panels on the back of them, but they're sending a signal every hour. And so we can see the quail, basically their activities every hour. You know, of course, at night they go to, you know, they roost, you know, come together and roost as a covey, you know, in the grass. So there's not any activity at night, you know, besides just one point just sitting there. But anyways, it shows the significance, like on this particular picture, it shows the significance of native range compared to like this right here. You can see, you can kind of see, but there's actually, that's our property line boundary, and that's all Bermuda grass over here. And all this on this side down here, it's primarily all Bermuda grass too. So we basically got, you know, and that's what's kind of tough, you know, native rangeland. But, you know, there's more and more places going to more, you know, specific introduced grasses or fescue out in the eastern part of the state. But you can tell on these quail that what areas that they're utilizing. You know, I mean, sometimes you'll get where they're trucking off a little bit, but look where they're spending all their time. It's all in this native rangeland. And so it kind of gives you, and we wasn't just looking at that, but we were looking at areas that we burn to see what, if there's, you know, in our grazing aspect, we're looking to see if what areas are using more and what time of year, to see if our management goals are being met, you know, for just specifically quail, which, you know, but you can, but if, you know, and that's our primary interest on our cross timbers wildlife management area is quail, you know, because they're declining. I mean, you know, but anyways, we're trying to see what we can do to maximize potential to see, you know, what kind of effects we're having on quail. And so anyway, that's why the study's going on. They're doing it on a few other wildlife management areas too, out at Beaver, Sandy Sanders in Southwest Oklahoma and Pack Saddle. But yes, sir. Yeah, well, it's, yeah, well, this is just like, 3 birds that we had transmitted on. It looks like a lot, but this is just over time and all in stock. So it's actually, we didn't actually, put transmitters on a whole cover. We wanted to disperse them around the whole wildlife management area. So we'd trap a couple birds in a cubby and put transmitters on them. And then we'd go to another part of the WMA and try to trap another cubby and put transmitters on them. And so anyways, so it looks like there's a lot of birds, but yeah, predators are, yeah, they're detrimental. And like I said, we don't know, there's lots of research going on, but there's a lot of things working against quail, primarily, the habitat component, just like the grassland species of, songbirds and stuff that require native grasses, native rangeland to nest. So anyways, and, basically when you just have a small, just it's, consolidate like a little bitty patch of native range, like what we have on this wildlife management area, it's 10,600 acres, but, in the grand scheme of things around it, there's, I haven't looked at actually percentage wise, but I would say 75 to 80% of the pastures around this WMA are introduced, it's either solid love grass or Bermuda grass. But anyways, yes, sorry.
Somebody told me like turkeys were white whale.
There hadn't even any really significant research on showing that turkeys are that detrimental on quail, but sorry, go ahead.
Do you have any idea what the percentages for the whole state would be of native versus non-native range?
I couldn't tell you for sure.
I asked a really well-studied botanist, but he couldn't give me a good answer either.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Go ahead, sorry, yeah.
Well, I was thinking about coming down across the river to science. Give me that slide.
Yeah. Yeah, up to the hour. Yeah. But anyways, sorry, I can't, not real good on answering those, but, and then also this is just another area of the wildlife management area, but it shows you these lines, right through here. This is one of our native grass restoration plots right here, this little area right here. And this over here, this we plant in, we have a native sunflower patch right here. And we do all these fields you see these are native sunflower patches. And so, and that's, from pollinator, but anyways, they're, once you get them, I mean, there's a lot to talk about, but anyways, once you get those native sunflowers established, you can winter disc them in January, February timeframe, preferably first part of February, and it'll come up solid sunflowers. And so I don't have any pictures on here of the sunflowers, but I was just kind of showing you what's around and then, like I said, this area right here is our native grass restoration plot. And this plot right here is a little bit different restoration effort on this one. This one, we sprayed it early with glyphosate to pretty much kill everything. And then we've gone in and sprayed it periodically if we noticed a big moth of Bermuda grass or something showing up. But we've let it sit for about, after spraying it, we didn't actually go in and plant a cover crop. This is kind of one of our trial areas, but we let it sit for about, I don't know, 3 years or so. I mean, it's just been predominantly monoculture of weeds, ragweed and different things. There's been a little bit of native grass because, it's been there, but like I said, it was primarily just a Bermuda grass pasture, but it has a lot of terraces, topography and things are pretty steep. So I didn't want to disc it all to plant a cover crop. So what we did on this one is after setting about 3 years, we burned it. And then, because there was enough vegetation, it would burn. because I mean, there's some like cheat and things like that, which I'm not a big fan of. But anyways, we burned it and it had enough residual vegetation there that we just went in and planted native grass right into it. So we didn't plant no cover crop or anything like that. But I mean, it's just another alternative of, of planting native grass, especially like if you have, a big topography difference. On the landscape, like most everything besides this was just, flat field, so it wasn't that big a deal. But sorry, I've gone way past time probably. I'm just about done. And then I guess the last slide. But anyways, if y'all have any questions, there's my information. And I apologize, my work truck, I'm actually got a loaner, but I don't have any cards with me. But there's my information if you want to write it down, or, and we do have field days on cross timbers, which with COVID, it's kind of stopped this last couple of years, but we do have field days, and I can keep in contact with Patrick and then possibly have y'all come down sometime, or if y'all just want to do it as a group or something like that, y'all could come down and look at these areas, and I could explain them maybe more in detail or what's going on, and y'all could see the results of what we're doing. But go ahead.
Yeah, on your sunflowers, the deer are killing me. I know there's some sunflowers the deer don't bother that much. Do you have any idea? Do you have problems with deer in your sunflower patch?
No.
What kind of sunflowers are?
Well, they're just I don't know the exact name of I just told them I wanted a native sunflower. Whenever I went, there's like black wool seed sunflowers, there's stuff like that. But that's, this is the native. I'm gonna say I don't know. Somebody in here might know the name of them. But anyways,
Like at the roadsides in Kansas.
yeah, I mean, they'll get 8 foot tall or
They're
something.
multi-limbed.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm not sure exactly what the name of those sunflowers. But anyways, I just wanted a native sunflower that's native to the area that I could, and it's really good at disking. When we shred them, and it creates a lot of food. And I'll leave the sides of them, leave them all winter long. Those sunflower fields just for the birds to have winter forage throughout the whole winter. But then we'll shred them, too. But anyways, for dove and things like that. But yeah, sorry I went so long.
That's okay. Question, Adam, Day is here. He's got a native restoration under his belt just about every week. Adam, how do you deal with Bermuda grass and other invasives? What's your go-to recommendation?
Kind of depends on the situation. Spraying is kind of the most cost-effective way to go, but sometimes we use sod cutters or solarizing. So yeah, it kind of depends on the client and the size of the project.
So if you've got a smaller project and the client is a glyphosate, never going to happen in my place. Do solar, and there's some people that are that way, and
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
If you're going to do the solarization, how do you do that? What's the time frame?
Well, we did a pretty decent size in the whole backyard this year, where we put it down in the spring and then took it up in, I would say, kind of early July. Seemed to get pretty good kill off.
So
And then we
you go
seeded-
back a year later, you don't have Bermuda there?
Well, no, you gotta stay on top of it. It'll try to come back, seeds, stolons and everything. So yeah, you have to make sure, especially the first 3 years, that you get any that come up. So yeah, it seems to work pretty well. But I mean, then you have you have to purchase a ton of plastic, throw that away or reuse it somewhere else. But so there's always environmental trade-offs, whatever method you use. Sheet mulching might be another good option.
Spread sheet mulch.
Putting down cardboard and then mulch or compost or soil on top of that and planting with that.
And it smothers the Bermuda and
Right.
without it coming through.
Right, yeah, and you probably end up doing a lot more hand weeding or spot spraying with that. Those are kind of neat options.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, Untitled Chapter left security underground?
Yeah. It's a public hunting area. All of our wildlife management areas are.
One of the things that when land sells, farmland, for instance,
Yeah.
that the big buyers now, money-wise, aren't seeing us from, they're interested in something.
Yeah.
So they'll probably have to do some things like you're doing to enhance their something.
Yeah, and there's like the CRP, programs that you can get, government assistance to help cost share, to reestablish back the native grass, and they pay pretty good per acre. It varies on the farm bill, but how much you get, but it's like you get an initial cost to get it established or to plant, and then you get like a yearly payment, that's $40 or $50 an acre, to sustain that native grass for like 10 years. So it's a pretty good incentive. That's one way of, helping cost share on getting your place reestablished, because back to that native component. But yeah, but there's also, like I said, I don't want to carry on too. But anyway, there's also assistance, like with, like I mentioned NRCS, there's like equip, or their programs are constantly changing, but there's wildlife programs and like agriculture programs where you can get assistance to, that sometimes it's like 50 to 75% cost share assistance to, to basically convert back to native grass. They also pay to go to Bermuda and stuff too, but they also have that component for native grass, converting back to help.
Those programs, so if you have like a small stream.
Yeah, our riparian area, yeah, fencing it off or whatever, protecting it. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, and I apologize.
No, this is perfect. There is,
I was kind of jumping around a lot.
As you probably know, there's an author by the name of Douglas Talamy that the Oklahoma Native Plant Society will be hosting. Write this on your calendars if you haven't. February the 4th and 5th of 2022. He's going to be in Oklahoma City on Friday evening, and in Tulsa on Friday evening, and in the Oklahoma City area at UCO on Saturday. As a prelude to Dr. Talamy, who wrote the book Bringing Nature Home, which your 455 blips from the 3 quail shows, this is what it's all about. They've got to have habitat. And the habitat that they have to have is native plants, have the insects, have the seeds to keep things going. And it's all a matter of each one of us can do something to keep things going, even if it's one plant or 27,000 acres of plants. So as a prelude to Talamy coming in February, we're going to, our next meeting is in 2 weeks. Our schedule is got chenched up a little bit. So in 2 weeks, our September meeting will feature a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service speaker that will be talking about some of the things that the federal government is doing and some help that you can get. October, we'll have an expert on getting native seeds to germinate. And then our November meeting will be another speaker from the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation talking about some of the things that have happened with private land ownership that has successfully converted to native grasses and forbs that have actually received some statewide awards. So bring a friend. Again, you don't have to be a member of the ONPS to come to these meetings. I'm sorry? It'll be in an email. The next meeting is in 2 weeks. It's September the 2nd, and then it's mid-October and early November. It's on a Thursday evening. You should, if you're not getting emails from the ONPS, please raise your hand and let us know that.
I wanted to let, especially people over there, I have all 4 of Talamy's books now, and these are his 2 new ones. We were going to, when we were going to have a visit last year, it was to promote this book. And in the meantime, he's published another book.
And if you
Specifically the
buy
oaks.
them now, he'll sign them in February when you take it to.
We sell below retail because we buy volume, and so these each are only $20 a piece. So, and they're listed.
Yes, Joe. Oh, September What is it? September the 24th is our annual meeting. It's going to be in Stillwater. Galardia is coming out in the next week or two. It'll have information and sign up in it, as well as you'll be getting emails from the ONPS board talking about it. So pay attention to that. If you can make it to Stillwater, please plan on doing
The
so.
webpage has the agenda.
Yeah, it's on our webpage, OklahomaNativePlants.org. And you can sign up there as well. So bringing nature home is kind of the Bible that talks about why we do it and what we're doing and the rationale for it. And it's something that I think that everybody in this room, if you don't have a copy, it's something to seriously think about having. And I would like to offer this. You get an honorary membership to the Oklahoma Native Plant Society for the next year, as well as the Ptolemy book. Thank you so much for doing
Thank
it. Appreciate it. Unless there's other comments, we're
There's
adjourned.
also some free seeds people have brought for seed swap, so take them. I'm sure they don't want to take it back home.
Feel free to browse, and we'll see you in 2 weeks on September 2nd. Thank you. Welcome back.
Welcome.